and happy Thursday. Today we are going to be going over the May 7th portion of the distance learning packet. We're going to have some reading. We need you to read for 15 minutes. Again, you can use a book of your own or one of the foldables from the back, or if you have a really good online resource to use for that, you may use that as well. And then you're going to read the rest of the article, the informational article from yesterday. If you didn't finish reading that, go ahead and finish reading that today. And if you did finish reading it, go ahead and reread the article. You can alternate, even alternating paragraphs, doing every other paragraph. And then after you're reading, discuss with either an older sibling or your parents. Ask which is a better idea, a nature preserve or boardwalk. And remember, when you're asking yourself that, give yourself some evidence. Why do you think that? So if you're giving your opinion, you need to have ideas that support that opinion and tell you why you think it is better. And then for writing, you're going to have a writing prompt today. You're going to discuss which is a better idea, a nature preserve or the boardwalk. So you're going to kind of tie that into the reading. And we're going to have some grammar and spelling where we're going to go over comparatives, the ERs and the ESTs. And then the last thing we have is a little bit of math where we're going to have some procedural practice. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so again, for reading, you are just going to go over this informational article. And yesterday you guys talked about identifying the opinions of the writers. So you're going to kind of use that skill today for your writing. So you're remember, when you are opinion writing, I've kind of put this in here again from yesterday. And if you need more time on this, remember you can always pause it or go back to this in the video. So you're going to have a sentence starter where you think, I believe, my favorite, the best, in my opinion. You're going to choose one of those to start your paragraph. And then whenever you are using a transition word is when you come up with information that backs up your opinion, and that is supporting it. And sometimes a lot of times you're going to use information from the text to support that. And then finally, you're going to have your conclusion. And basically in the conclusion, you're just restating what you said in the initial sentence there. Okay, so it should look something like this. So again, your writing prompt is, what is a better idea, a boardwalk or a nature preserve? So here, in my opinion, I've given you some sentence starters. In my opinion, and you're going to write which you think is a better idea, a boardwalk or a nature preserve. And then first, additionally, and finally, you can use these sentences are going to give you back up your evidence. Why do you think that? In your opinion, why do you think it's better? And then that's where you're going to state why you think it is. Okay, and again, these transitions, you don't have to use these. These are just an example, so you can always go back to this slide and pause it and select which one you would like to use. And then in your conclusion, you are going to restate your opinion from the very first sentence. So if as an example, if your opinion was a boardwalk is a better idea, you can put, in my opinion, a boardwalk is a better idea. And then in your conclusion, you can put, in conclusion, the boardwalk was the best idea. In conclusion, I like the boardwalk idea better. So a lot of times you're going to restate it using different words. Okay, and that is the writing prompt portion. And then the next portion is going to be a little bit of grammar practice where we're going over comparatives. And it looks like we have words that end in ER and EST. And noticing that all of the words that are given to us as options end in the EST or the ER. When you're using comparatives, let's remember that when a word ends in ER, usually it's being compared to two objects or two items. And then when a word ends in EST, a lot of times it's being compared to three or more items or objects. So that's something to keep in mind when we are going through each problem down here. And it's wanting us to circle the spelling word that completes each sentence and then write it on the line. Today I'm going to go over probably 3 or 4 with you, and then I'm going to want you to try some on your own. I will circle which word fits the best, but then you're going to need to go in and write that word. So let's go ahead and get started on this. For number 1, we have, it is blank in January, then June. We're given the options colder or coldest. So it's going back. I like to reread the sentence using each word and see which one makes sense. It is colder in January than in June. Well, that sounds right, but remember, if a word ends in ER, we're comparing two things. So here you see we have June and we have January. That kind of fits the criteria, so we know that the best option here is going to be colder. Moving on to number 2, is January the blank month of the year? Again, looking at our options, we have colder and we have coldest. Well, here you can see it's comparing January to other months in the year, and because there are more than 3 months in the year, I'm going to think that the coldest, I'm going to start with coldest because I think just based on that information, that's going to be the best option. So let's go ahead and plug that in and see if it works. Is January the coldest month of the year? It sounds right, but let's go ahead and try colder just to make sure. Is January the colder month of the year? I think that based on the information, that coldest is going to be the best option. So let's go ahead and move on to number 3. Gina has the blank bike of all. Gina has the fastest bike of all, or Gina has the faster bike of all? Well, because she's talking about of all, it's comparing it to all bikes, which all bikes is going to be 3 or more. So I think the best option there is fastest. Let's go ahead and circle that. Gina has the fastest bike of all. It looks right, it sounds right, it makes sense. So it looks like we chose the best option. And we're going to do the last one is going to be number 4. Tam's bike is blank than my bike. Tam's bike is faster than my bike. That sounds like a pretty good option, but let's try the other one just to eliminate it. Tam's bike is fastest than my bike. That doesn't really sound like it makes sense, but if we're going off of the spelling pattern rule, faster, it's ending in ER, and it looks like Tam is comparing that bike than my bike. So only 2 bikes are being compared, so it does look like the faster is going to be the best option. I went ahead and did 4 examples for you. I am going to want you to try some on your own. Again, if you ever have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me through class tag or just commenting in the section below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And the last thing we are going to go over today is our May 7th math. And it looks like we have a math task here. It's given us a version of base 10 blocks. It says the base 10 block pieces below shows 134. So it looks like the square is going to represent 100 because there is one of those. And over here, if you look at the place value of our number, there is only 100. It looks like these lines are going to represent the tens column. And if you look over here, we have a 3 in the tens column, and there are 3 lines. And then it looks like we have a 4 that is representing the ones column. And if you look over here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 dots. So these are representing 134. And it is asking us, what is 10 more than 134? Use base 10 block pieces to represent the situation. Write an equation. So what I did here, I represented 134 using our base 10 blocks that we've been using. And then it's only asking us what is 10 more. So we're focusing on the tens column in that number, okay? We're focusing on the 3. So none of the other digits are going to change, just the number that's in the tens column because they're asking what is 10 more. So if we added another 10 to 134, the only digit that is going to increase is that 3 because that is in the 10 spot. So if we added 10 more, 134 plus 10 is 144, and that would be our equation. So we showed it using base 10 blocks, and we wrote out an equation. Okay, and moving on. Now it's asking us what is 100 more than 34. We're still working with the number 134, but now they want to know what is 100 more. Use base 10 block pieces to represent this situation, write an equation. So I basically did the same thing I did on the last slide where I showed 134, and then in the last slide it said 10 more, now it's saying 100 more. So again, the only number that is going to change is we're going to focus on the number that is in the hundreds column, And that's going to increase by 1 because we are adding another 100. So if we have 134 and we add another 100, we know the only spot that's increasing is that 100 spot. So 134 plus 100 equals 234. And that's how you would show your work using both base 10 blocks, and then this would count as an equation. Okay, now we are going to move on to our math procedural practice where we're mentally adding 100. And when we're mentally adding 100, we're only focusing on that hundreds column. We're adding that to another whole number. So we can use basic math facts to help us because the 5 plus 0, we're adding 0 to that. So the 5 is going to stay the same. Starting with the ones column, moving over to the tens column, it's 1 plus 0. We're not adding anything else to that 1. So that 1 and that 5 are not going to change. But because we are adding 100, we're focusing on that hundreds column. 2 plus 1 is 3. Knowing that we're just bringing the 1 down, we're just bringing the 5 down. So we're mentally adding that. Think 2 plus 1 is 3. Those basic math facts. And that's going to help us mentally add 100. The same thing when we mentally add 10. The only thing that is going to change is the number in that 10 column because we're not giving none of the other digits in the number have any value. So the only one that's going to change is the number in the 10. So think 5 plus 1 equals 6. Well, if we know 5 plus 1 equals 6, we know, okay, 0 plus 0 is 0. The only number that's going to change the only value, that's going to change is in that 10 spot. 5 plus 1 is 6. And then 2 plus nothing is 2. So we know 250 plus 10 is 260. So just think of that mental math. And we're going to also be using place value for that. Okay, so moving on. We're going to mentally add some number. We're going to mentally add 100 to some numbers. Here we have 450 plus 100. If we look here, 0 plus 0, that's not going to change. There's nothing. 5 and 0 is not going to change. We do have 4 plus 1. We know that's the only place value that's going to increase. So that lets us know if we mentally add 4 plus 1, it is 5. So we know that 450 and 100 more is going to be 550. And now we're moving on to number 2, where we're mentally adding 10. So again, there's nothing in that hundreds column, and there is a 0 in that 10 spot. So we know the 10 column is going to increase by 1 because we're only adding 10. So if we use mental math, 3 plus 1 is 4. So the only number that's going to change is that tens column. So 630 plus 10 is 640. Excuse me, I will go on to number 3, where we have 801, and we're going to mentally add 100 to that. Again, only focusing on that hundreds column. That's the only column that is going to increase. So if we have 801 plus 100, 8 plus 1, using that mental math, 8 and 1 more is 9. So we know that is going to be 901. I gave you 3 examples. I am going to want you to try the last 3 there on your own. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Just remember to focus on that place value. We're mentally adding 10, mentally adding 100, okay? So either the hundreds column is going to increase by 1 or the tens column is going to increase by 1. And that will be the only number changing to get the sum of that. Because remember, we are using addition, so we are looking for the sum. That is all I have for today. I hope you all are having a wonderful week so far. If you have any questions or your parents have any questions, please reach out to me and I will do my best to get you an answer. I look forward to talking to you soon. Goodbye.